Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Grace Payne, and this is Lorenzo Gallarosa, and welcome to Day 6 of Youth for Inclusion for 2021. We hope you had an amazing week of learning and have lots of things to take away and work on. We have another insightful and thought provoking session ahead of us, and so get ready to learn some more. Let's quickly recap about the Zoom tools and Slido. Please turn your attention to the main screen now.
Thanks, Grace. Here are some of the Zoom tools you can use to have a better experience during this session. First is turning on subtitles or transcript. Find the live transcript button, click on the small arrow beside it. Then, click on Show Subtitle. Or, you can also click View Full Transcript. Next, to turn on Vietnamese language interpretation, click the Interpretation button. Next are the general rules. Make sure your mic is muted. Feel free to make use of the chat box to share your comments. If you have any questions throughout this session, please submit them through Slido. You can scan the QR code shown on the screen or visit slido.com and key in the event code 154501. You will also see the link and the event code in the chat box on Zoom.
Now, before we head into Day 6, we want to quickly recap the last 5 days.
In our opening session, Brina and Sashi hosted our discussion about what leaving no one behind from the SDGs look like, and why is it important to make sure that we leave no one behind. We answered that the SDGs are our shared responsibility, so everyone, regardless of ability, should be involved and included. Guided by Shruti, we visualized what an inclusive world for people with disabilities can look like. During our panel discussion with Ben, Gina, Simran, Zoe, Raylin, and Chaitanya, we said that inclusion should be the default setting on everyone's minds. For SDGs 4 and 8 to be inclusive of people with intellectual disabilities, they should have their rights to access quality education and decent jobs recognized and promoted in policies and programs. Employers should hire based on ability, not on disability, and that we should foster inclusion in both the workplace and in education. Finally, young people and people with intellectual disabilities should be meaningfully engaged in discussions about SDGs, such that their voices are heard and respected.
On Day 2, we had Workshop 1, Introduction to the SDGs, and the facilitators were Linka and Carla from United Nations Development Programme and Jasmine Sharif from our Regional Athlete Input Council. They introduced what sustainable development is, which is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The Sustainable Development Goals, as we know as the SDGs, are 17 goals created by the United Nations for all of us to try achieve by 2030. And there are 5 values of the SDGs. On the top right corner, we can see the 5 pillars of the SDGs, which are peace, partnership, prosperity, people, and planet. To monitor and measure our progress with these goals, we have 169 different targets and 231 unique indicators. We ended the workshop by encouraging others to complete their own SDGs action plan.
And on day 3, we had Working Group 1, where we discussed the actions we could take for the SDGs. This session was facilitated by Lynn, Grace, Satya, and Daki from Special Olympics Asia Pacific's Athlete and Youth Input Councils. To better understand SDGs 4 and 8, Grace and Daki shared their personal education and employment journey with us. Teams from Special Olympics Bharat, Guam, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, and Vietnam then presented their proposed innovation grant projects that target the SDGs. The facilitators concluded the session by encouraging the applicants to use the SMART goals as a framework to continue to refine and think about their projects.
On day 4, we had Working Group 2, where Kanta Public Singapore introduced the concept of behaviour change to us. We learned about how people can apply the behaviour change framework to our project plans and advocacy. By understanding our stakeholders' barriers and motivations, we can design solutions that can bring about the changes we want to see.
On day 4 and 5, Caitlin, Jamie, and Rocky from Special Olympics guided us on a journey to understand and practice inclusive leadership for the SDGs. We discussed what made Special Olympics founder Eunice Kennedy Shriver a great leader and influencer, and how we too can lead to include.
It was really motivating for me to see what Special Olympics youth around the world are doing to achieve SDGs 4 and 8 despite the global pandemic.
So, in the last 5 days, we learned why and how we need to be inclusive in the SDGs 4 and 8. So, today, on our last day of the summit, we'd like to ask you an important question. How can we all work together to create a more inclusive world?
That's right. So let's watch this short video featuring 6 of our Regional Athlete Input Council members, Hanako, Daki, Salihan, Brina, Hasib, and myself.
What can you do to play your part?
Teamwork is exactly what we need in our mission for a more inclusive world in 2030.
Cleaner skies, greener cities, accessible technology, and inclusive societies.
These goals are dreams that have created this happier and peaceful world for us and future generations to come.
We hope that everyone does a part in making our world in 2030 possible.
After all, change is the real game.
I completely agree with you, Grace. Change is the real game.
Now, to lead us in a discussion about SDG 4 and 8, inclusive leadership, and the role we as young people can play in this, I would like to introduce the speakers for today. We have Patrick, Laura, Angela, Raman, and Ding Long, along with our moderator for the discussion will be Sashi. Over to you, Sashi.
Hi, thank you so much, Enzo and Grace. Awesome job being our MCs today. So as Grace mentioned, I will be moderating what leaving no one behind from the SDGs looks like, why it's important, and how SDGs 4 and 8 can be more inclusive. So before we welcome our esteemed panel, just 154501. So, and then you can just thumbs up questions to them. So, all right. Is everyone ready? Okay, so the first two questions that we'll be discussing today is what does leaving no one behind from the SDGs look like? And that first question is very simple, and yet it will help us really envision it and give us a goal to aspire towards. And then the second question will be about why it is important to make sure that we leave no one behind. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our panelists. So, first we have Patrick Lee Huang Kien. Hi, Patrick. He is from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and he's currently in the 12th grade. He is the president of Uni Hub, which is where students with intellectual disabilities can learn from mentors. Hi, Patrick. And then next we have all right. So Patrick and Laura have been schoolmates from International School of North America, and they have been unified partners with which in Special Olympics it implies that it's a pair consisting of one individual with an intellectual. Hello. So let's kick off our panel discussion. So let's first talk to Patrick. So Patrick, can you start off by sharing with us what role do you think young people play in SDGs 4 and 8?
In Vietnam, at our school, International School of North America, we taught different types of learners in our learning profiles, such as inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, and more. For me, they are very important, not only for me, but also for our young people too, I think, because they help us to improve ourselves and continue to develop in the future. In my opinion, to contribute to the development of Goal 4. As a young person, we continue to develop our inquiries, knowledgeable, and communication skills through learning to develop ourselves. With caring and an open mind, we start to share in different way our experiences with others, especially with the intellectual disability people community, where the other students need great support from young people to spread out inclusion education throughout the inclusion to the country. This will allow more people to benefit from the inclusive and quality education as I receive. As for goal number 8, as you all know, COVID-19 is taking place all over the world. We can see that technology is an indispensable tool to learning and working, as well as other services. Therefore, as a young people as well as ID people, we find that learning technology is extremely important because we use technology to develop our jobs, for our daily shopping and our communication to work together for developing better and for sharing to support others. I strongly believe that youth with and without intellectual disability equal access to technology as the others. They provide technology skills, they'll be more confident to work independently with the work they assign or their own work. Their life will be improved and more qualified because they are not left behind. Those are my personal thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing.
So I love how you talked about, equal access to technology and the youth learning and developing continuously for a better life. So definitely agree with you. Thank you so much, Patrick. So now let's talk to Laura. So Laura, we'd love to hear from you next. So maybe you could tell us what inclusive leadership is for you and why it is important in achieving the SDGs.
So, first of all, what makes you feel that you belong in an organization? Well, studies show that what leaders say and do can make a 70% impact on whether or not a person feels included. And this is important because when individuals feel included, they are more likely to speak up, go above and above, and collaborate. And all of this would then benefit themselves and the organization they're in as well. So, in order to achieve the SDGs 4 and 8, inclusive leadership is extremely important. This is what schools and company leaders should take note of. Next, keep that slide. Yeah. So in my opinion, inclusive leadership includes being self-aware, giving everybody in the team a voice that can be heard, knowing how to help people on board with changes, and knowing how to harness everyone's strength. This makes sure that diverse thinking and is respected, managed, heard, and applied. So everybody has the right to learn, the right to be involved in activities. Sometimes it can be challenging for some students to be able to do this. This is where an inclusive leader comes in, like a teacher or seniors. In order to support these students, there must be an effective system with a clear common goal and inclusive policies to help these individuals. So the policies should be practiced and modified to produce the best solution to see what fits in with the community we're in, like for example my school or your school. In the context of the SDGA, the economy is always growing. We are all aware of that. And one cannot move backwards. Individuals with intellectual disability might face setbacks and difficulties during this movement. And it is also up to the leader to help them grow. And I believe that things start at the foundation. Oh, sorry, next goal, please. Next slide, please. Um, so things started at the foundation, and um, where was I? Uh, then learning specific skills and social skills are very crucial. We can grow based on our strengths and practical experiences. So my friend Mario in Vietnam here, he's not very talented in public speaking. So if he was given an assignment to make a speech in front of a crowd, he would not be able to do it very well. But if he was given a digital designing assignment, he would have completed it amazingly because he is very talented in computer and designing. So everybody has their own strengths and flaws, but under an inclusive leadership, we, such as youth leaders, will be able to work together, support, and cover each other's weaknesses, and practice our strengths, eventually reaching the SDGs. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. And I love that example that you gave. It's very relatable. And also, when you mentioned that when people feel included, they are more likely to go above and beyond. I really felt that. So definitely having one's voice heard and valuing diversity is truly important. And like that example you gave, I'm sure you're speaking from experience, working with Patrick on all these events. So thank you so much, Patrick and Laura, for those two sharings. All right, so maybe now we can move on to our next panelist. So we have Angela Respecki. So hi, Angela. Angela is an athlete and a physical education instructor at International School Manila. So she teaches adaptive PE and it is inclusive of all abilities. And then also for the past 3 years, Angela has been the faculty advisor for the Inclusion Revolution Club, which is a student initiative and also an official partner of Special Olympics Pilipinas. So they are working towards being recognized as a unified champion school, which means an all-inclusive school in the very near future. So let's all welcome Angela Respecki. Hi, Angela. So, Angela, we'd love to hear your thoughts, especially because of your very close involvement with the youth, right? So, what role does inclusive youth leadership play in SDGs 4 and 8? And, as an educator yourself, what do you think are the key aspects of SDG 4, which is quality education, that we should pay attention to?
Yes. Hi, Sashi. Thank you. Thanks for having me. inclusive youth leadership plays an impactful role in helping schools or organizations create a healthy environment where all voices are shared and heard and valued while supporting the SDGs. When schools allow youth leaders to thoughtfully create opportunities where students can take part, students will engage more with the community. So everyone's perspective in the group is valued and all voices are heard. I've been part of many inclusive youth leadership groups when all stakeholders are heard. This inclusive atmosphere impacts well beyond those within the group. So when a class or a batch year group or club or team takes initiative, this is when change really happens. So by helping others take a look through the lens of one another, we can support each other and a more inclusive culture begins to blossom. So students or individuals need to get involved and be engaged. And we all need to call out our schools or organizations up on positives and not so positives and make certain that we know that the focus and our aim for the schools or organizations we're all in and involved in, we need to know what those purposes are. That's the role inclusive youth leadership can play. Next slide, please. Inclusivity, open-mindedness, and all of which should align with school values and culture. Equality in education should include all parts of the curriculum for all people. So schools need to provide opportunities for all students to feel comfortable, to engage, and have a voice to help everyone better understand the needs of all. Next slide, please. So quality education, we can do this by looking into 3 different points. That is school-wide priorities, curriculum, and narrowing the gap. Yeah. The school-wide priority is an overarching priority lens that provides structure and emphasis on important and relative values or issues within the community. The curriculum needs to be refreshed to provide current, accurate, pertinent, day-to-day teachable moments for everyone. And we need to provide opportunities for all students to feel comfortable to engage and to have a voice to help everyone better understand the needs of all. Now, here's the most important one, and I know I'm almost done. Narrowing the gap. When I'm talking about narrowing the gap, I'm talking about students without disabilities need to understand those with disabilities. And we need to continue to provide opportunities at which people can experience each other. When I take a group of students without disabilities to go and support others, it's always magical because in my mind, they think that they are going to help support others. And what happens is that they gain more knowledge than they could have ever imagined. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. And I love those 3 aspects that you pointed out. And, I totally agree that lifelong learning, inclusivity, and open mindedness are really, the key aspects to quality education. And just like the examples that you gave, when all parts of the curriculum, as you said, are inclusive, then, that's when we can achieve quality education. So thank you so much for that sharing, Angela. It's very straight to the point. So maybe now that leads us to our next panelist, which is Raman Reki. So Raman joined Special Olympics Bharat or India in 2012, and she serves as the Director for Marketing and Communications. So Raman is responsible for supporting the development of communication tools to increase awareness and build the capacity of Special Olympics Bharat's 35 state and union territory programs across India. That's a lot. So, a master of impact storytelling, Raman also leads youth leadership initiatives in the program and establishment of the National Youth Activation Committee. So let us all welcome Raman Reki. So hi Raman, how are you? So yes, okay.
I'm fine, Sashi.
That's so good to know.
Love
So
meeting
Raman,
you.
I guess we just want to know, as someone who works closely with youth with and without intellectual disabilities, what role do you think young people with and without ID play in SDGs 4 and 8? And adding to that, maybe you can share with us what are some of the best practices of inclusive youth leadership that you can share with us.
Sure. Uh, Firstly, it's great to be part of this panel, and it's excellent to be a part of this event. Now, Sashi, thanks for the question. SDG 4, that highlights quality education, places the youth at the center of driving success. I would like to quote a volunteer who is now a youth leader with us. And she said that it's at Special Olympics that she's actually experiencing inclusion, although she has studied in an integrated school all her life. And an integrated school is actually a school that has both the wings, the mainstream as well as the special wings. Out of sympathy or doing a good deed, she would often join activities done for the special students. But recently, after Special Olympics, very recently, in fact, she planned a workshop. Within the plan was made within an inclusive group. It was rolled out to a group of athletes. And when the review of the event or the session went, that was also done in an inclusive group. So that was a whole different experience that she went through. So, quality education is an enormous task. It's a huge goal to achieve, and our future depends on it. Just as education, academics, begin early in life, so should the quality of education be monitored. Reaching out to the youth means the same. Begin early, the passion of the youth, their readiness to accept change, to flex is extraordinary, and that is of value. So, it is important that the youth learn to work with each other and not for each other on and beyond the sports field. As they lead, they also learn from each other. Inclusion in education is I think you can just go on to the second slide. So, inclusion in education is integral to the latest National Education Policy 2020 of India. This is a great opportunity for us. Sports is getting popular in school curriculums. Inclusion becomes central to education. We need to link the two. Unless the youth do not experience working with each other, inclusion will remain a subject of discussion only and not really an attitude. Next slide, please. Quality education would pave the way for a decent and a welcoming working ecosystem. Actually, in a way, the SDG 4 and 8 are linked with each other. Once you have experienced in school or during your education to recognize and respect differences and consequently to accept and include, the youth would grow to be leaders and barrier free decision makers, respectful of everyone. A strong economy can be derived in an environment where growth is not restricted only to a few selected segments of the society. Growth is when everybody is together, everybody grows together. Changing mindsets is an enormous but achievable goal. The challenges and situations are still very real, but it is people who would change these situations. It is everyone. We as adults, although we would take longer, the youth is crucial to be part of this transformation, in fact, to lead it. We may talk of inclusion today, but the fact that mainstream and special schools exist in separate spaces perhaps leaves a lot to be learned. Next slide, please. The National YSC, I just wanted to share that we have created a National Youth Activation Committee. That's a completely mixed group. It's inclusive. It's amazing how they meet and discuss. They discuss what happened in the previous few months. They discuss, they brainstorm, they plan for the next couple of months. And in person, the group used to meet once in 3 months, but now virtually they meet once in 2 months. So a lot of things, this in itself is a very learning experience. And we come up with different initiatives, even if it's an individual initiative, and it doesn't really require a group of youths to be working together. The individual is encouraged to work. Suppose it's a youth without intellectual disability, he or she is encouraged to work with an athlete over anything. It could be a task of writing a unified blog, it could be creating something arty, it could be just conceptualizing an event. So basically, the idea is to give them that experience of working together. Thank you very much.
Right. I love that. Thank you so much, Raman. And you know, when you said that youth should work with each other, not for each other, that was very, very on point because many times we think that we're doing something for someone, and there's nothing wrong with that. But inclusion, the very root of inclusion is really working for each other, growing together. And I also love and appreciate how you shared with us the best practices in Bharat. So we learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. So now we can turn to our next panelist, Din Long Pam. He is a youth social entrepreneurship and innovation consultant. And he is also associated with Youth Co-Lab and the UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub. And he is passionate about supporting the youth in achieving a greater impact for the SDGs. So Din Long currently works with young social entrepreneurs and community builders across Asia Pacific and outside of work. And Din Long is also the host of the Lifeline podcast. So hi Din Long. How are you? Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Sashi. Such a pleasure to be here.
Yes. So building on what has been shared by Patrick, Laura, Angela, and Raman, as someone who works closely with youth and being a youth yourself, can you share with us why do you think it is important to involve young people in our work with the SDGs and how we can be inclusive in advancing the SDGs 4 and 8 to be specific?
Yes, thank you so much, Sashi. Again, to be here with all these amazing speakers. And I agree, first to say, with what everyone shared today. And maybe to start with the first part of your question, why should we, what is the role of youth and why should we include youth in the realization of SDGs 4 and 8? I think for me, it's quite a philosophical question, but very important one, asking ourselves and reflecting, okay, why is it important? And maybe 2 points I want to share about that. Is the first one is obviously, as young people, I think we are the ones who are going to live with the legacy that the previous generation is leaving us. And I think it's something you have learned about during the SDG workshop as well on Monday about, what legacy are we leaving the next generation? So not only us, but also the youth that will be after us. So, in what world do we want to live in? Which world do we want to see? And it's our role, to play and to push to see this world happening. And it's really, I remember this question from Ben Hack, I think, yesterday, who was asking, okay, what if governments don't reach the SDGs? What happened? What should we do? And I think it's an excellent question because I think as youth, we should not wait for the government to take action. We should take action, and then through taking action, we build more credibility to make the governments accountable. And I think, we've spoken a lot about how youth are, the generation which is the most connected, more than ever, who is building movements which are either international or local. And I think there's so much potential to unleash if all the conditions are met, which is, as we mentioned, inclusivity for young people for SDGs. And I would like to share 3 quick points on what we try to do with our programs in increasing youth, the inclusion of youth for the SDGs. The first one is a sort of metaphor that we like to use is the inclusive glasses. So how can you put inclusive glasses and you do an assessment of, okay, who are the youth joining your programs? Are they the same profile of people? Are they maybe only, youth who can speak English, who have a master's degree who come from the capital, or is it youth from all over the country? Is it youth from also marginalized, vulnerable communities? Do we have youth with and without intellectual disabilities? So I think it's important to, before doing anything, to at least have an understanding of where you are at. And it's what we try to do. And of course, the best way is when the glasses become your eyes. So you always see through the inclusive lens. You don't need your glasses anymore, but you see it naturally. And the last two things I want to share that we did to create this inclusive space for every youth to feel welcome is how can we create a safe and enabling environment. And for us, it starts with establishing clear rules, really saying that, okay, our program is a space for youth, is a space where every youth is welcome, and it's a space where we promote empathy, deep listening, and where everyone's point of view is valued and recognized, and where, as Laura mentioned, all these skills that are important. For us, it's important to make it clear that here it's a space for youth. Regardless of your background, you are welcome. We will listen to your story, and we want you as well to learn from you, from your story. So that's a few points I wanted to share, and it's really for us important to set clear rules in order to create a safe space and enabling environment for everyone, regardless of your background.
Thank you so much, Din Long. That was a very interesting sharing, and I especially love the inclusive glasses. You know, the glasses becoming your eyes and really understanding. And I think that's something that we can all really benefit from, not assuming things and really taking time to understand and assess things. So I love that. Thank you so much, Din Long, and for those valuable insights. So, to all of our panelists, you guys are amazing, and it has been really um, a joy to hear your experiences and thoughts about the first two questions. And I think we are now ready to move on to our last question, question number 3, which is focusing specifically on people with intellectual disabilities. How can SDGs 4 and 8 be more inclusive? Okay, so before we continue on to that, I would like to invite you all to share your thoughts in the poll. So please scan the QR code or type the event code, and then answer the question. Okay, so someone will post it in the chat box. Okay, all right. Let us hear again from Laura. Hi again, Laura. So could you tell us, as a youth leader yourself, what challenges do you face when leading your own projects to advance the SDGs, and how did you address them?
So for my projects, I faced lots of problems, and I'll list them out and tell you what we did to solve those problems. So first of all, we needed to in order to have a successful project, you would need a purpose or goal that you need to achieve. So we need to first determine that specific goal, because it's more effective if you have a specific goal than a broad goal to achieve it. So for the app project, where we create an app that it helps SCN students, special educational needs students, we held out a survey to see what are their needs, what's their story, what the mom said. We wanted to hear the student's story, their feelings, and what they need in an app that could help them communicate themselves better. Because what the image in the slide says, sometimes what you think is so much, but why it's so little. And we wanted to see that if this is true for the students at our community. And so, yeah, we need to address what is the need. Next slide, please. And the next problem was being able to find the right people to work effectively and work with and effectively communicate with them. So in order for our project to be so successful like that, we had the help and support from lots of people in our school and community. And it's best because it's like the people in your group would be able to understand, like I said, effective communicate, understand what the purpose you're doing this for. Like for example, like our app designers at first, they didn't understand what our project was about. They only thought it was just, oh, it's just an app with some of the gadgets and some like info. But then like after Zoom calls, like you could see from the images, we explained to them that this app is for children, for students who really need, which is very like, crucial for the students to in order to help them communicate and do better in school and have like a better mental health, and also solve like anti-bullying problems. And like through discussions and like talks like that, we were able to help them feel like understand like why are we doing this, and like have like a common goal. So it's like the quality of the work that we all produce is so much better and so much more effective. So finding like, because like you could walk so many more miles if you walk together. Next slide, please. And the next problem that we would usually face is needing to be able to manage our time, the budget, and also risks that may occur. So before any project start, we always come up with like a timeline to say like, oh, what should we do this week? What should we do this month? What should we do this season? Something like that, to have everything organize and write down the tasks that we should do. And I highly advise that, because like it's so much more easy to work on the task when you see like you like can visualize what is needed to be done. And also for the budget too, because like my projects are like a part of innovation grant, so we have like usually 1,000 to like 2,000 grants. And it's very crucial, important to like use all that money for a good cause, for effectively, and not waste it, because like it's very important that, so we listed out all the expenses that would need for this project to work, and like try to cut budget as low as possible so we could use it for something better. Like yeah. And also the risks that may occur, like for example, like at first the plan was like to have lots of offline activities, and like go have offline meetings with like the collaborators to work on our app designing process. But because of COVID and lockdown, then we had to switch plans and like do everything online. So that was one of the risks that happened. Next slide, please. And the last problem is being able to successfully reach that goal and have an impact on the community, and have the community be aware of what you are doing, like have like a positive effect on the community. And we did this by constantly promoting our project, the app, and we set up like booths right in front of the school. You know, like our school, we had like a yard, so we set up booths to promote the app activities, and we hand out freebies too, to like bracelets. And so people would be aware of what is happening and what the app is about, and like understand like why are we doing this, like to raise anti-bullying awareness. So yeah, those are the challenges that we faced and how we overcome them. Thank you for listening. Sashi, yeah. I thought it was my computer.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My bad, my bad. Take two. Thank you so much, Laura. Yes, that sharing was very interesting. I'm sure, I hope everyone is taking notes. And indeed, when we want to be inclusive, we will be facing very unique challenges, right? Um, so, yeah, and as you shared with us, it's very important that we see eye to eye with the people we're working with, and really requires time and effort and patience. But when you have a common goal, as you mentioned, a lot can be achieved. So thank you, Laura. So Patrick, as the unified partner of Laura, how would you like to um how would you like other people to support your work to promote inclusion in the SDGs? And have you experienced any good or bad examples?
Ever since I joined Special Olympic Vietnam in 2018, I've experienced the inclusive leadership and learned that we all need to have an inclusive mindset to achieve the SDG. 4 years ago, I found you need how to bring the youth with and without intellectual disability, and we have done a lot of meaningful activities that promote SDG 48. Too well, our partners, teachers, and have to understand with accommodate the, the learning needs to the student with the intellectual disability. For example, when working on our project, I found it difficult when there's too much information to understand. Luckily, my partners, my mentors understood my learning needs. They helped me to break down my tasks into small steps so I could conduct them as best as I can. These are outstanding projects that we have completed together to inclusive leadership. In 2018, we did a unified project supported by several scientists organizations with the theme and environment. In 2019, Unified Innovation Grant Project, I received a 1,500 award in social science, arts, and sport skills to youth with and without intellectual disability helped by the school in Vietnam. In 2020, an bullying app project called Your Voice, I received a $2,000 to create an app on the phone to raise awareness of school safety for students with special education needs. In 2021, Mindful Karaoke is a project with the idea that we wish to share with all people about the effect of clean, sugar, and food for their health. Through this experience, my social task-based research, time management, and technology skills have greatly improved. I could not have done with inclusive learning environment provided by friends, teachers, and teachers. I believe that if the young generation is more aware of inclusion, we can have more inclusive and well, youth with and without intellectual disability work together. That's like thank you so much for
All right. Yes. Thank you, Patrick. Right. So they're showing the slides of the projects that you mentioned. Patrick, you are a very remarkable individual, and you and Laura are unified partners. That in that short span of time, you have achieved so much. Angela, how do you think schools and teachers can support youth in their efforts to advance the SDGs? And do you have any best practice to share from International School Manila?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Tashi. Yeah, so one of the main ways that we can do that is we can set up a kind of a school-wide list of an alignment of skills necessary, to reach those thought patterns of open-mindedness, being empathetic and caring learners, and having growth mindsets. We can offer, teachers in schools can offer opportunities to practice these skills so that students build more confidence and so that they can begin to support each other. Schools and teachers need to think in terms of those school-wide priorities and subject curriculums to encourage everyday incorporation of the SDGs so that the community then begins to think locally as well as globally, as to how better support people, all people. Some ways that we do that at our school is through programs. We have a CAS program, service partners that we venture to throughout the year. We have Saturday services and eye care initiatives, which are all full school participation. These are student-led and faculty-supported experiences. These lend ways to the next, and that is, next slide, please. Student initiatives, opportunities, and experiences. So this is another way that we can support youth in their efforts to advance the SDGs. And that is, next slide, please, by aligning skills needed to support the learning of all students in school. The culture, then once we do that, the culture tends to turn to one that empowers students to connect with their own passion as well as peers, and help to provide those opportunities to take initiative and engage to lead. Our clubs at our school are student initiated and faculty supported. And next slide, please. One of these clubs is one that I'm advisor of. This club, Inclusion Revolution, was initiated by one student's passion to support others. And they created a proposal, they recruited a faculty member, and it's a ripple effect. And I think that youth can be supported, and with a little guidance, and can make wonders happen. Next slide, please. These are just some examples of some initiatives that our students took. Next slide, please. With the Special Olympics Philippines. And it has been a beautiful experience. So next slide, please. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angela, for touching up on those points. And indeed, we need to think locally and globally, and that will really guide our mindset of in our goal of better supporting others. So thank you, Angela. I think now it would be very important for us to hear from Raman, who, as someone who works to mobilize Special Olympics youth on the ground. So, Raman, what role do you think various stakeholders like yourself play in supporting youth in their work to advance the SDGs? And same question as Angela, what best practices can you share with us? Raman, I think you are on mute. Yes.
Okay, this is a great question, actually. I'm very excited about this question because, yeah, you can move on to the second slide. Yes. This is basically, we need a whole lot of people to assume supportive roles to enable the youths to come forward. To answer your question clearly, increasing interaction and engagement opportunities is the bottom line. Well, like for example, when there is an event, of course, the event is important, but what is really significant is the preparation for the event. Those are the added opportunities and learning experiences that we must give to the youth, and we are able to engage various other stakeholders in these moments also. Next slide. It is important to identify the interest of the youth and get them to work in that, whether it's social media, it's anchoring, it could be anything which, like music, rap, creativity, anything. And also important to provide them the freedom to grow within that with guidance. We have language guidelines, we have branding guidelines, but it has to be enjoyable for both. Fun is important to be engaged and to be willing to learn and participate. The approach that may work could be, and this I'm really saying so that the stakeholders, the various stakeholders who gradually join in the youth activation program, can kind of figure this out, that the approach that works is for the youth that do what you want to, but with an objective and within the frame of Special Olympics. I'm speaking out of experience. As we expand activation to the states in India, there are diverse situations that we face. Some do not believe that the youth can be allowed to take the lead, while the others are willing to overburden them with their own work. So it would work either way. A constant and non judgmental dialogue is required with different stakeholders to identify the hitch and also to figure a way out, because we need to understand that we need many more people to make youth activation successful. Next slide, please. Creating an environment of learning and growing for both is important. We talk of inclusion because diversity exists, and we are not here to eliminate diversity, but to enable each to achieve their best and enrich the environment. The youth without intellectual disabilities are not here for charity. The youth who join Special Olympics, they are not doing any charity by engaging with our athletes. This experience is important for them also, but it's also a little on us to make this platform important. And in that way, we must create opportunities for both the youth with and without intellectual disabilities to grow, encourage them to experiment with each other, giving them the freedom to innovate and to lead. Next slide. Virtual gives us ample of opportunities to hold discussions. And what we often do as part of all the engagements is to steer them towards reflective situations, reflective situations like inclusive leadership through icebreakers, activities, etc. The activities throw both into a thought what they are doing and also why they are doing what they're doing. And frankly, this may look very micro, but we need to understand that the youth are adolescents. They have their sets of issues, dreams, etc. This needs to be addressed. This essentially needs attention to create a mutually accepting arrangement. It is human psychology that any two people have to understand and adjust to engage meaningfully. It needs to be spelled out in black and white, simple and straight. What do you like? What do you not like? What works and what doesn't for you? When we talk about inclusion, the environment has to be welcoming for all. And looking into individual abilities and conveniences may actually strengthen the foundation that allows you to effectively collaborate. As I speak, I realize that all this applies everywhere, but we need to take care that it is applied here as well. Thank you very much.
Balance, right? Between guidance and you taking the lead. And I think what really stuck with me was how you emphasized creating an environment that is conducive to growth of the youth and also the stakeholders. So thank you so much for that sharing. And finally, our last question will be for Din Long. As someone who mobilizes young people for SDG advocacy, do you have any tips for us to share for our stakeholders on how they can be youth led in their initiatives to advance SDGs 4 and 8?
Yes, thank you so much, Sashi. And again, I think I agree with what everyone said, which is a good sign that we are all converging towards something. And yeah, congrats to Patrick and Laura as well. I think it was a perfect example of whatever we are sharing today, and of not waiting for your school to take action, but taking action which makes your school accountable. And also, Angela, you from the other side as well, how from a school perspective you can create this enabling environment. I love this. And Raman, I could quote everything you said. I agree with everything. And yeah, maybe to come back to a few things again that we try to do after setting these rules, trying to set up this safe space, and again, what everyone mentioned as well. I think for me, for us, it was a learning journey of understanding the different levels of youth participation beyond, I mean, there is a first level which is, when youth are here just to tick boxes. And I'm not going to speak about it. We all know our opinion on this. But I would say I wanted to come back on the term inclusion, and for me, how it's linked so much with decision making. And maybe to take another metaphor, but for me, inclusion would be, for example, to invite someone into, I don't know, a party or around the table. But I feel like if there is inclusion, but then the person is not, doesn't feel comfortable to share, doesn't feel comfortable to take decision, or is not allowed to take decision, the inclusion is very limited. And for us, it was a learning journey to understand this, that there is inclusion, but also inclusion is 100% linked with decision making. So what we're trying to do is, how can we allow young people to take decisions with us? Whether it's very, day-to-day decisions about workshops that we want to organize, different curriculums that we are developing, or even more strategic decisions like what are we going to do over the next few years. So I think for us it's important that there is this, which is allowed, enabled, and clear. And the other part of this is as well, how can we explain all the decisions that we are taking in a very transparent manner? And I think Angela mentioned it, Raman as well, and it's also the last point that you can see on the slide, where how can we switch the mindset from traditionally use our beneficiaries to use our solutions maker, and we try to see it the second way, that use are equal leaders, use are people that have their expertise, that have their lived experience, so they should be able to take decisions with us, right? They are equal leaders, and we should be able to explain to them, like, why do we take this decision? What's happening that we cannot take this and this decision? And I think it's a very difficult thing to do, whether it's, as part from the stakeholder perspective, to, okay, how can we trust youth, empower youth so that they can take decisions, they can challenge us, they can make us accountable. But it's also a challenge from the youth perspective. Like me 10 years ago, I was 18, and never in my life I would have imagined that I could take decisions, lead projects. For me, I was just like, okay, I'm a beneficiary of whatever is happening. So how can we also, as a youth, change this mindset of, okay, I'm a youth, actually I'm super powerful, I can take so many decisions, I have my own lived experience, and I should not wait for my school, for my government, for whoever to lead the change that I want to see. And so it's what we try to do in our programs, really. Understand this journey of youth participation, and how can we create this safe space so that youth can take decisions and also see themselves as equal leaders and not only beneficiaries of program, but they are the one leading things. And they can also come back to their community and do the same for their community, empower their friends, empower their classmates, etc., etc. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was such a great pleasure to listen to all the speakers.
Thank you, Dinlon. So lots of notable things there and a lot of quotable quotes, I think. And I really enjoyed that sharing, and I feel like you were able to weave together the important discussion points so far. So thank you, everyone. That was a very interesting discussion. And on behalf of everyone joining here, I just want to extend our gratitude to all of the panelists for being with us today and engaging us all in these very interesting topics. So thank you, Patrick, Laura, Angela, Raman, and Dinlong. So to summarize that amazing discussion we just had, why don't we look into the poll results? So let's look at the questions that people had. All right, what's this? What support would you like to receive to achieve the SDG skills training. What's the most leadership opportunities? Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah. All right. So am I correct? We will move on now to the question and answer, right? So we have so I'm not sure if it's going to be flashing the screen, but we have some questions here from our participants. I can combine some. Oh, here we have it. So, how can we convince partners to work with youth with intellectual disabilities? And that's a similar question from Arden, who said, how do we persuade every youth, regardless of disability, to be partners for change towards an inclusive world? So maybe we can have Din Long answer that again. Hello. Okay, I think we lost. Anyone who wants to answer that question? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, sure, Sashi.
So
Thank you.
maybe we can have
Uh,
Ron answer that question.
Okay. So I think the greatest way of bringing people together is to open opportunities for them to engage. Like you have an event, invite people, give them those opportunities, because even youth without intellectual disabilities could be hesitant because of lack of awareness, because of lack of exposure. They may be harboring like the mindsets that they were talking about. So that's what I say. I mean, very briefly, that the best is to bring people in touch with each other.
Right, right. I agree. So maybe we can answer one more question. I think we have time for one more question. Okay. Um. Okay. Okay, that's done already. How about this one? How can the Oops, it was gone. All right. Sorry. So how about this one? How can we help more people with intellectual disabilities to understand the SDGs? I think that's a very interesting question, and maybe we can have either actually anyone can answer, but maybe Angela or Patrick and Laura, if you have anything. How about Angela? So the
Sure.
question
Okay.
again. Go ahead.
Go ahead. The question again, please.
Okay. It says, how can how can we help more people with intellectual disabilities to understand the SDGs?
All right. Well, I think that we can, just about exposure and just infiltrating throughout the day with as many examples and life experiences as we can possibly do, whether that's in a school setting, whether if it's in an after-school program, whether it's however we can get them connected to every piece along the way. It's not just people with disabilities, it's every person. That's how whenever I'm speaking and talking about this, I'm talking in my mind, we're bringing everyone closer, and because everyone needs to understand. It's the same way when I teach adaptive PE, and I teach my PE class, and the gap is very narrow. And it's just the way that we possibly need to expose, or the just kind of differentiation with our teaching. Sorry.
Thank you so much for that. Um, I think I'll just clarify if we still have time for one more question. Okay. Yeah, so I learned so much from all of you guys, and I'm sure everyone else here learned so much. So thank you so much for being with us and sharing your thoughts, your experiences, and best practices, challenges. We learned so much. So thank you. I think we can now.
Thank you so much, Patrick, Laura, Angela, Raman, Dinlong, and Sashi for that wonderful discussion about SDGs 4 and 8, and also about inclusive leadership and what role we young people can play in this. Let's now have a presentation of the graphic recording summary of that interesting discussion.
Hi, everyone. I'm Desiree from Proof Creatives. I'll walk you through a quick visual journey of today's panel discussion. We started with Patrick, who talked about the accessibility of quality education, how it's so important to have an inclusive mindset, and also to diversify and innovate and upgrade for economic activity. He also talked about their projects on awareness on special needs, and one of those projects were the Mindful Carrot Rocket project. And then over to Laura, who talked about when people feel included, they are more engaged. She talked about the importance of harnessing strengths, being heard, respected, and managed. She talked about some of the challenges, time and budget, and also meeting the right people to work and communicate with, and determining specific needs and goals. And over to Raman, who talked about how it's important for the youth learning to work with each other, not for each other, having an environment to learn and grow together, identifying areas of interest, and being guided, supported, and trusted. And also, she talked about the Youth Activation Committee. And then talked about unleashing the potential of young people, wearing inclusive glasses, the importance of transparent decision making, and how youth are not beneficiaries but equal leaders. And then Angela talked about her experience on having inclusive leadership, school-wide priority, curriculum, and also narrowing the gap of understanding each other, empowering students, and the inclusion revolution. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure drawing the big picture with all of you for this whole conference, and we're looking forward to working together for an inclusive world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that amazing summary, and I really love those little pictures and as you draw them, it's so cool. I would like now to introduce Hasib Abbasi, an athlete leader from Pakistan who is also a Sergeant Shriver International Global Messenger and a fellow member of our Regional Athlete Input Council. Hasib has the honour of closing the Youth for Inclusion Summit 2021 for us. Now, over to you, Hasib. Take it away.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Babasi, Sergeant Shriver International Global Messenger, representing Special Olympics to spread the vision and message of inclusion for people with intellectual disabilities around the world. And I've been involved with Special Olympics for over 13 years. I'm from Pakistan and I live with my parents and younger brother Hashim. We both were born healthy and our early development was normal except for verbal speech. From 2 years onwards, things became very challenging because of the lack of early diagnosing facilities available. My parents were lucky to get admission for me in a mainstream preschool program when I was 3 years old, although I was nonverbal. Communication was such a challenge for me that I learned to say my name only when I was 8 years old. I only used single words to indicate my needs with poor eye contact. I was shy, so learning to communicate with my classmates and teachers got really hard for me. Often I tried to be part of their conversation by repeating some of the words which were stored in my memory, but they didn't understand me. I wanted to participate in games at school, but no one wanted me to be part of their team. Feeling left out, I would help in the classroom during break time. I had no other option except to think about my favorite cartoon characters like Johnny Bravo, Scooby Doo, and Powerpuff Girls, not only repeating their dialogues loudly, but even try to act like them. These actions seemed weird to other students, and so some of my schoolmates labeled me as mad and retarded. I had to drop out of mainstream school. When I was 13 years old, I was introduced to the Special Olympics Pakistan, which opened a whole new world of opportunities for me. All the athletes applauded my entry on the track. The sports manager gave me a microphone to introduce myself. I shared my name and told them that I wanted to play with them. This was my first time ever using a microphone. I felt empowered for the first time in my life. I felt people were listening to me and that I too had a voice. I felt accepted. Since being part of Special Olympic Pakistan, I have achieved so much. I represented my country, won two gold medals in Bauchi at the Regional Games in Australia, and became a road cyclist. Beyond sports, I have also become a public speaker to advise for people with intellectual disabilities in Pakistan and around the world. In 2016, I delivered my first TED Talk and started hosting a web television program on Channel 6. I have also published a book and traveled around Pakistan to share the stories of people with intellectual disabilities. However, the biggest achievement I've had as a public speaker was giving the opening ceremony speech at the Special Olympics World Games Abu Dhabi in 2019 in front of 60,000 people. I'm blessed that Special Olympics has broken the most difficult barrier of my life by giving me a voice and uncovered my passion for advocating for people with intellectual disabilities. I faced even more challenges. I was denied several jobs opportunities and dreamed of earning my own living. Today, this dream has finally come true. Last year, I became the CEO and founded a juice shop called Squeezy the Juice Bar. Getting Squeezy up and running hasn't been easy, but thanks to the support of my community and THA management, I am running business. My plans for Squeezy are vast and many. Squeezy gives me hope that someday it can become a leading employer that will provide a mean of finance independence for people with unfortunately, people with intellectual disabilities around the world are still constantly being left behind. Host of this summit, we have talked about the struggles that people with intellectual disabilities face in receiving access to quality education and in finding decent work opportunities. Many people around the world are still denied the most basic services like health and education. Being kept at home, they never get a chance to learn and contribute to their community. Friendship, love, and acceptance are missing from their lives. And it is this mindset what we, the 6 million athletes of Special Olympics, want to change. We need to remove barriers that stand in our way. We need to find solution and we need to do it now. We must stand up for ourselves and create opportunities for those who are left behind, like I did with Squeezy. But we cannot do this alone. I believe it is everyone's responsibility to play a part in the inclusion revolution. As a society, we cannot make progress if we are leaving anyone behind. As we work towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, keep listening to the voices of people with intellectual disabilities in your community and collaborate with them. Your presence here proves that you understand and you want to see a world where we are seen as equal. Every individual with or without disability is a wonderful human being that can play a meaningful role in shaping an inclusive world. Just like me, you too can find your voice and use it to send a message to others. Together, we can overcome injustice and create a better world for all. Join me in raising your voice so we can see a completely inclusive society and praise each other for who we really are, determined and amazing change makers. Love you all. Let's choose to include and lead to include. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hasib, for that inspirational message. Now, learning from Hasib, we all have a voice, and let us use that voice right now. We are using the same Slido code that was presented earlier. You can scan the QR code on the screen or key in 154501 on slido.com. And you can also find that same code in the chat box.
Let us know in this word cloud, what can you do to help achieve quality education? You can submit more than one response, so you can share as many ideas as you want, and we want to see this word cloud grow. Let's go.
Yes, so let's wait for the first answer. Yeah. Must have inclusivity. Wow, that's a nice answer, huh? I
It's
really like that answer.
awesome. So do I. What else do we have? Keep up the
Yep.
words,
Don't
everybody.
don't be afraid to put in your answers, guys.
Oh, wow. We got a
Presentations.
couple more.
There you go.
Ooh. Also, if you agree with some of the ideas as well that you see on the screen, you can also type them in again, and then they'll make that word bigger. So it shows that more people agree to the idea of this word or phrase.
Right.
So what?
So far, I like the
Make
answers. Advocate for inclusion. Speak up is the
well,
biggest word. Wow.
something sounds like something that Hasib has said during his speech. Speak up and use our voices.
Right. Yes. So very good, everyone.
We've got public speaker, opportunity. Whoa, so many words moving around. Advocate for inclusion.
Advocate for inclusion. Right. So those are the two big words there. All right. So shall we move on to the next question, Grace?
Yeah, there's so many amazing words, and keep up with those ideas while we move on to the next one, Lorenzo.
Yep. So thank you, everyone, for your amazing answers. Now let's move on to the second question. What can you do to help achieve decent work and economic growth? So again, you can type multiple answers if you want.
Oh, wow. More job opportunities, inclusive societies. Yes, I agree with those 100%. What else? Emphasize.
Empathize. That is nice.
Oh, wow.
Support
Everyone's
basic.
coming up with really good ideas, aren't they, Lorenzo?
Yeah. And again, guys, if you agree with some of the ideas, you can type them again to make the answers look bigger. Oh, there you go. Inclusive workplaces. Nice.
Just like that. We've got training, we've got speak with employers, we've got accessibility, inclusion. They're all so amazing. The words are amazing. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, great answers, everyone.
Oh, wow. This is amazing. And I hope that we do use these ideas to make our future more inclusive and acceptance. So let's now end this word cloud, and thank you all so much for joining in on this activity. And you all came up with some very insightful words and ideas, and we're so glad that you really enjoyed the Slido activity by the looks of things. I'd like now to introduce Shivam and Kaif, youth leaders and a rap duo from Special Olympics Bharat in India, who will be performing a rap for us. Let's take it away.
Hi friends, my name is Shivam Verma. I am an athlete leader and Kafwaya is my unified buddy. And I hope you all Hi friends, my name is Shivam Verma and I am an athlete leader from India. Kaf Bhaiya, my unified buddy. I enjoyed rapping together. I really happy. I hope you all enjoyed to Kaf Bhaiya. What you like to say?
Hello everyone, my name is Kef and thank you so much for this amazing session for having us here. So professionally, I'm a business quality analyst, but always a youth leader at Special Olympics Bharat. Today, me and Shivam are here to present a rap that we have prepared. In this rap, we have talked about different sustainable development goals, especially inclusive education, career development, and women empowerment. We shot this video at a historic site in New Delhi, and I really hope you all like it. Thank you so much.
Pando killed the beat.
यूपी 14 से दिल्ली MK साथ में स्लेवी हाँ ये
Slavery unified just with MK, we are youth partners.
for Special Olympics Asia Pacific, straight out of Special Olympics Bharat. Sustain, yeah.
आ जाता हूँ जब भी मैं अब अपनी वाली बीट पे ये माइक क्या वो स्टेज क्या दुनिया में लगती आग है फसाना जो सुनाना है बात है पुरानी ये बड़े बड़े कह गए बात ये बड़े बड़े कह गए you will reap what you sow you will grow when you bow keep a pro which is low whatever you want you need to know whatever you want you need to know whatever you want you need to know yeah I'm with Slavery talking about SDGs sustainable that and sustainable this well-being of athletes to strengthen communities removing barriers with technologies use what you need saving for the future call it sustainable education for all progression of career improvement of health physical and mental power to the women against this fight promotion not suppression of rights road so dark youth becomes the light taking this world to a whole another height let me tell you what you create for your need all giant trees come out of small seeds words so loud might cause a stampede keep the thing in your pocket which we all call greed Mother Earth is crying. All these species are dying. People are being discriminated against. Inclusive education and career development is a need of this hour. Sustain. There's a revolution for inclusion. Reigns with the youth approaching unification. Empathy always, fill these empty hallways. Unified generation riding on these highways. MK, Slavey, brothers to the grave. Perfection in rap, that's what we crave. And engrave our names on the stones of this cave. Let the people come through on this path which we pave.
हाँ बड़े बड़े कह गए इनसे ना हो पाएगा आज हम भी यहीं खड़े हैं आज वो भी वहीं खड़े हैं फर्क बस इतना है कि जिन लोगों ने बोला था इनसे ना हो पाएगा आज वही लोग बोल रहे हैं ये पत्थर को भी चीर जाएंगे चिड़ियों से भी ऊंचा उड़ जाएंगे जब करी थी पढ़ाई उनको बात समझ में आई इंक्लूजन है ज़रूरी ना समझो इसको मजबूरी नहीं सोच से हम सबको समझाएंगे ये हिस्सा न लगा ये हिस्सा सोसाइटी का ही है पढ़ाई ज़रूरी है ताकि कल्चर को बचाएं। तभी तो बड़े बुजुर्ग कह गए ये बात, पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो बनोगे नवाब, खेलोगे कूदोगे तो होगे कामयाब। स्लेवी MK।
Sustain.
I'm speechless. Can we give him a big round of applause real quickly? Because that is such talent. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Shivam and Kai, for the amazing rap performance. I really hope this gets around the internet because I absolutely love it. So before we finally close the session, and for the last time, let's go to the same Slido code that you've seen on screen to complete your evaluation poll. If you could do that, that would be awesome and much, much appreciated. So, Lorenzo, how did you enjoy the summit?
I enjoyed it so much and I learned a lot, especially about what we young people can do to achieve inclusion.
That's so awesome. I learned about how the SDGs are so important and what all of us can do to achieve these goals for an inclusive future, leaving nobody behind.
Yes. So that is the end of our Youth for Inclusion Summit, everyone. We hope that you all learned a lot in the 6 days we are all together. Right? So before we all go, I invite all of you to join our Facebook group, SOAP Youth Network. The link is posted in the chat box and is also shown on screen. Also, the evaluation survey link for today's session is shared in the chat box, so please do answer it. Once again, everybody, I am Lorenzo Galarosa, and she is Grace Payne, and we are signing off. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe and see you all very, very soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.